And welcome back to Jax Rewind. You are in the right place to keep informed about local news. We take you day by day, headline by headline, through the biggest stories of the week on First Coast News. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Jeannie Blaylock. Let's start on Monday. Smoke in the cabin forces a plane to make an emergency landing in Jacksonville. The flight was headed from Atlanta to Orlando with 200 people on board, including 6 crew members. Passengers were taken to Orlando on shuttle buses after departing the plane. We spoke with retired Lieutenant Colonel Randy Reep, who has more than 15,000 flight hours, including 4 on an airplane just like this 757. He explains why the plane landed at Cecil Airport instead of Jacksonville International.
Today was a land as soon as possible. Put the aircraft on the ground now, passenger safety being the paramount thing. And it appears they did that in a very expeditious manner, and they landed at a field maybe that they didn't have support, but they made sure that they had safety there.
Our Heather Crawford spoke with a passenger from Atlanta on Flight 1576 who described what it was like making that emergency landing.
All of a sudden, no warning, just the oxygen mask came down, and then shortly thereafter, they said the cabin was depressurizing and put on our mask.
Peter Stewart was sitting in the emergency exit row headed to Orlando for a work trip when his life flashed before his eyes.
In my 40 years of flying and close to 3 million miles, like this was the scariest time I've ever been in an airplane.
As the plane rapidly descended, he was able to send a text message to his wife and children.
I just said, I love you. In the moment, that's the only thing that popped into my head. And then I went to write something more and the Wi-Fi cut off. And then the plane decelerated even more. It was deathly quiet. You could see people holding each other's hands. I know I was saying prayers.
Delta confirms the Boeing 757 was diverted due to smoky conditions in the cabin.
I didn't see any smoke. Multiple people said they smelled smoke.
What followed was a dramatic descent to Cecil Airport in Jacksonville.
The way that plane banked like that, so tightly while descending altitude so quickly, I think that was a very competent crew that performed that maneuver and got us into that small airport so quickly.
The moment the plane landed safely,
everybody erupted in applause for the pilots.
My question for you is, are you going to get on a plane and fly back to Atlanta after all of this?
Honestly, Heather, I haven't made up my mind yet. Part of me wants to just rent a car and drive back.
All right, that was Heather Crawford reporting on that harrowing experience. City money will not be used on support services for undocumented immigrants in Jacksonville. City Council passed the ordinance Tuesday evening with an 11-7 vote. Moments later, there was a lot of pushback from demonstrators outside City Hall.
Look how many amendments they had to make it even palatable for some of the most racist among them on that City Council to vote yes.
And this was what it looked like outside the building right after the City Council's vote. These demonstrators are now calling on Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan to veto the measure. We were at Tuesday's meeting for many hours and witnessed a lot of back and forth on this issue.
City Council can put 3.5 hours into debating a meaningless bill, but they can't put it into figuring out budget priorities and enough staffing so that our city services can run like they're supposed to.
Heard from 63 speakers during public comment. The majority were opposed to the bill, but a few were in favor.
You can't tell us that we aren't good enough to have businesses in the country, that we can't come to newer cities, to come to developing cities and be great.
They can come here legally. They are accepted legally.
The vote sparked intense debate among council members. Councilmember Rory Diamond, who introduced this bill, defended it, saying it will protect taxpayer dollars. But other council members called it a flawed and divisive bill.
Are we Jacksonville or are we Los Angeles? Are we Florida? Are we California? Are we going to be a place that says that we are going to follow the rule of law, or are we going to be a sanctuary city?
It was flawed in its inception, and we have the opportunity to be the change that we all want to see and talk about. Please, Congress, join me in voting no against divisiveness in our city.
The bill will now go to Mayor Donna Deegan's desk for her to review and decide whether or not to sign it or veto it, or just let it become law without her approval. This is all happening as protests against ICE and President Trump heat up in California. Here in Florida, state and local law enforcement are putting out warnings ahead of protests across the country planned for this weekend. Organizers say this is to protest the Trump administration, and it coincides with the timing of the military parade in D.C. But Florida's Attorney General and state troopers have a stern message for anybody attending.
The kind of lawlessness that we've witnessed on the streets of California will not be tolerated in Florida.
We want to put the public on notice in Florida and remind everybody, we have a law that says you cannot riot. We have enhanced penalties. If you engage in this behavior in Florida, you will do time.
The Attorney General also just announced a new program to protect ICE agents from doxing. That's when someone's personal information, such as their home address, is made public, typically with malicious intent. The state is the first to appoint an ICE liaison as well to coordinate efforts with the federal government. This week, the state of Florida executed its 6th prisoner so far this year. Anthony Wainwright, age 54, was convicted of kidnapping, raping, and murdering a Florida woman in 1994. Governor Ron DeSantis signing a death warrant for him last month. Court records show Wainwright abducted 23-year-old Carmen Gayhart, a nursing student and mother of 2, outside a grocery store in Lake City. Gayhart's sister, Maria David, said the grief has never gone away, but with his final appeal denied, her focus has shifted from waiting for defense, or waiting for justice, I should say, to finding peace for both families.
Death is final, right? But Anthony made some choices, and those choices have consequences. It's unfortunate for all of us. None of us asked for any of this. None of us. His family, my family, we didn't ask for this.
Clergy across Florida once again urged Governor DeSantis to grant clemency. A bill to protect victims of sexually explicit photos altered using AI or deep fakes is now law in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis signing Brooks Law in Jacksonville this week. The law, named for the daughter of former Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry, will give victims the power to demand social media platforms remove those deep fake images. Brooke Curry spoke up publicly to support the bill because she went through her own experience with sexually explicit content generated from AI when she was just 16 years old.
Brooks Law is not just about me. It's about all of us. It's about accountability, dignity, and hope. For every person who has been exploited or violated, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You have a voice. And now, thanks to this law, you have a path forward.
Brooks Law is one of several bills the governor signed this past week aiming at protecting victims of sexually related crimes. Months after 7 people died in the Sapelo Island gangway collapse, survivors and victims' families are suing, claiming negligence by the companies that designed and built the structure. This week, we heard the first-hand accounts of what happened that day.
As soon as I hit the water, it's like the currents were so rough and bad. The currents just instantly just picked me up. And I'm just floating down the river. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of a river.
That survivor went on to speak out about when she was in the water. She says she called out to her uncle and he started to grab her hand and then he pulled her under the water.
And he kept pulling me and pulling me and pulling me under the water. And I said to myself underwater, I said, oh my God, I'm getting ready to die. And God spoke to me so clearly. And God said, no, you have to release your uncle.
And now to the south side, where a man was killed in a shooting. The shooting happened around 2 Wednesday outside Copeland's restaurant on the south side area. That's Southside Boulevard and Touchton Road, to be exact. Our Christina Burge is following the story from there.
Yeah, police say that this was an isolated incident. Tonight, they're asking for the public to help them find a vehicle connected to the shooting.
There was people running from the scene. We heard screaming as well.
Screaming and the sound of gunshots was not how Yana Roeder expected her Wednesday shift at work to begin.
It's definitely frightening. We didn't know if we needed to shelter in.
In the parking lot next to the coffee shop where Roeder works, a man was shot in his chest and killed. According to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, the shooting happened around 2 p.m. in the parking lot of Copeland's restaurant on Southside Boulevard. Police say the victim was there to meet someone. At this time, the reason for the meeting is unknown. JSO says 3 people were detained and 2 witnesses gave statements at the sheriff's office. Police believe this was an isolated incident and there's no threat to the public. However, they're asking for the public to help them find a car connected to the case.
There was a black 4-door, possibly Nissan, that left the parking lot and went south on Southside Boulevard. That vehicle and the individuals inside, we are trying to determine what their part was in this incident.
I hope the suspects are apprehended. I hope the family of the victim is okay.
If you have any information in regards to this shooting, police say that you can call Crime Stoppers at 866-845-TIPS. On the South Side, Christina Burgess, First Coast News, on your side.
Thanks, Christina. Community advocates are reacting to the shooting that left an 18-year-old dead and 3 others injured. We first brought you the story about the shooting at the Vista Landing Apartments on the north side Wednesday night. On Thursday, we learned an 18-year-old died at the scene. The 3 others shot range from 16 to 21 years old.
They should have been on the basketball court or at a baseball game, you know, enjoying the summertime. Now, one is dead, 3 others in the hospital, so it's sad. We have to just figure out how to handle our differences in a more amicable way.
Investigators with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office are still working to determine what led up to that shooting. The autopsy is complete now on the death of a Jacksonville father and business owner who died in police custody. Charles Faggart died April 10th after an incident left him critically injured in the Duval County Jail. The state attorney's office says it has received the autopsy report from the medical examiner's office, but it is not releasing it publicly because it's under investigation. 9 JSO Corrections employees were removed from their duties, and they are also under investigation. You could need a driver's license to drive an e-bike or an e-scooter if a St. Johns County lawmaker's plan moves forward. We recently told you about 2 crashes on e-bikes and scooters this week in St. Johns County that left teenagers hospitalized. The state legislature approved a bill for cities and counties to put a minimum age limit on them and require an ID. We spoke with State Representative Kim Kendall. She wants to take it a step further and require a license statewide.
E-bikes to me are either a moped or a motorcycle, and that's where they need to be placed underneath the Florida statutes. Calling the e-bike what it is, it's not what it started out with.
Representative Kendall says she plans to file a bill this fall so that it can be considered in the spring in Tallahassee. In Nassau County, 3 people are dead after a crash on US 17. It happened just north of Good Bread Road. That's about 10 o'clock. That was Thursday morning. The Florida Highway Patrol says an SUV driving south tried to pass another car in the northbound lane and hit a semi-truck head-on. Everyone in the SUV was killed, including the driver, an 80-year-old Hilliard woman, an 81-year-old Hilliard man, and a 58-year-old woman also from Hilliard. Coming up next, a local veteran has waited 3 years after paying nearly $90,000 for a pool that still isn't finished. Ask Anthony is seeking some answers. Also, dolphins delivered to the First Coast in a bread truck. Our Jessica Clark will tell you where they came from and why they are here now. For some folks on the north side, it is no time to sit still. No, indeed, it's the week to do those self-exams for a buddy check. And for that, they are rocking at Campus Towers.
From your breasts down to your toes, you have to move. Age is not a barrier. Buddy check 12, okay? Get it all checked out. Here we go. Tap, 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 tap.
Great job, ladies and gentlemen. Yay for the men. Valerie Nelson with Aging True is all about boots on the ground. She's helping me teach about buddy check. You gotta feel for a hard lump.
You know how a rock get in your shoe? It's kind of like that.
I've never heard that before. That's a good description. Turns out these folks watch me doing buddy check on TV on First Coast News.
When you came on, you said that you go anywhere for buddy check 12. So I went to my supervisor and told her, can she get you to come over here to talk to us? So she said, yeah, and here you are.
Aw, that's sweet, Rebecca. That's nice. Well, you guys are important. Well, you bet we want all of you to stay alive. Rebecca has 17 grandchildren.
You guys, you're my reason for coming to work every day, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
And Andrea is telling them all,
I do my buddy check. I do my buddy check.
So here at Campus Towers near Edward Waters University, the message is you matter. Raise your hand if now you're going to do Buddy Check 12.
Wonderful.
Woohoo! Oh, very good. And you know, Buddy Check is for everybody. I am always happy to come meet your group. And have you signed up yet for the Buddy Bus? Our mobile mammography unit with badges will come right to your parking lot. We are making those mammograms simple, folks. Just go to baptistjax.com/buddy. In this week's Ask Anthony, a St. Johns County veteran says that he's waited 3 years and paid nearly $90,000 for a backyard pool that still isn't finished. He reached out to Anthony for help, saying the contractor keeps making excuses and now won't even return his calls.
Was it functional? Yes. Aesthetically, it would look terrible.
What was supposed to be a dream backyard oasis for Anthony King has turned into a constant reminder of promises unkept.
I've paid really close to $90,000 to get this pool put in, and it is not complete, as you can see.
In 2022, the Army veteran handed over the money to a contractor based in the Tampa area. The promise? A finished pool in 90 days. Instead, 3 years later, this is what King received: green water, sinking tiles, and a whole lot of frustration.
When you look at it, it's almost complete.
It's right there. It's like 90% solution, maybe even more. But it just needs that finishing coat done on it, the bubblers installed, the lighting installed.
King says he hired the contractor because they're both veterans and friends.
We both served together in the Army, and that's why I chose to do business with him, because as a veteran business owner myself, I wanted to do business with another veteran.
The contractor's name is Carlos Aviles, founder and CEO of Index Group. According to his LinkedIn profile, Aviles runs a small business that offers remodeling and construction services to commercial and residential clients.
I've gotten excuses from him about, subcontractors not delivering, but ultimately, it's his responsibility as a general contractor to fulfill the pool.
Right. King says Aviles even promised an outdoor kitchen and walkway to make up for the long delays, but he no longer believes that. King says Aviles hasn't been answering his calls, so I tried to see if he would answer mine.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
My call immediately went to voicemail, so I left a message.
I understand you started on his pool about 3 years ago and it is still not finished, and he's been trying to get some answers about when it will be finished.
Aviles didn't call me back, but his wife, who is also involved in the business, did call me back. She told me what King said is true, and there were issues with subcontractors in Jacksonville. She apologized for the delays and admitted they made mistakes with this pool project, and they would finish the job. But she couldn't give me a timeline on when that would actually happen.
I don't know what makes me more upset, the fact that he's a friend and doing this to me, or the fact that he's a veteran doing this to another veteran.
Thanks, Anthony. And here are 4 quick questions to ask your contractor before you build a pool. 1, how long have they been in business? Can they provide references? How many pools have they built? Can you see some examples of those? A little research can help you a lot by avoiding some big problems down the road. And once you hire a contractor, pay in installments. Don't ever give them all the money up front in case they don't complete the project. Anthony's been speaking with local contractors, and he says he might be able to get King's pool finished. I'm sure he'll keep you updated. A saga in the Panhandle involving a dolphin park now involves the First Coast. Marineland is now home to dolphins from the defunct park called Gulf World in Panama City Beach. Justin Clark reports how the dolphins are doing now and that the beleaguered park in the Panhandle is owned by the same company that owns Marineland.
They called me the crazy dolphin lady because I was all about it.
Tori Meisel loves Marineland Dolphin Adventure.
I used to volunteer when it was owned by Georgia Aquarium.
Wednesday, she was visiting the park for the first time in a while. She did not know that Tuesday, 4 dolphins had been delivered. They took off in an unsuspecting bread truck from the Gulf World Dolphin Park in Panama City Beach and arrived at Marineland.
No, I did not. I did not see any of the new ones.
In the past year, 5 dolphins have died at Gulf World. Its owner is Mexico-based The Dolphin Company, which also happens to own Marineland. The Dolphin Company filed for bankruptcy this year, and according to State Attorney Larry Bassford in the Panhandle, part of the bankruptcy process is to dispose of assets, and the dolphins at Golf World were considered assets. He says 11 dolphins in all were sent to 3 parks in Florida, including the 4 that arrived in Marineland Tuesday. He said Golf World in the Panhandle needed repairs and that the Dolphin Company did not have the money to make those repairs happen. State Attorney Bassford believes the dolphins are better off at the other parks, such as Marineland. He noted the company no longer manages Marineland, but an entity that was appointed by the courts does now. The state attorney in the Panhandle tells us the dolphins arrived safely and were interacting with some of the trainers who traveled with them. I called, emailed, and visited Marineland for comment Wednesday, and I have not received a response. As for Mizell, she says the dolphins she did see.
I thought they looked great. They looked plump, they were healthy, active, seemed to be having a really good time.
In the town of Marineland, Jessica Clark, First Coast News, on your side.
Thank you, Jess. You could call it an official welcome to Florida. An officer from New York gets his first encounter with an alligator in Florida. Take a look at how that went.
You have big teeth. I have tiny fingers.
He's got layers in his. He's so cute. Oh
Okay.
my God. Okay.
All right, no, wait. Let's talk about how we're gonna do this.
She says, "Homie, do not drop him." Yeah, do not drop the gator.
Okay, you'll take him back.
I will drop you if you
You'll
drop
take.
the gator.
You'll take him back.
I will take him back.
Okay.
You know, it's not actually that big a gator, but you know, it's his first one, so a little benefit of the doubt here. The officer is new to the police department in Largo, Florida, and in a first for him, his team responded to the alligator wandering around on somebody's property. Eventually, it was caught, you see there, and moved to another area, but not before the officer worked up the courage to hold it himself. Father's Day is Sunday. On the other side of the break, we'll take you through some fun events going on along the First Coast this weekend. You might enjoy. Stay tuned. So let's pause the rewind for just a minute because we have made it to the weekend. Yay, it's a big one for our dads out there. So let's look around the First Coast at some of the activities for the whole family. Get ready for a night of boots and beats and beachside country music. Jax Beach Country Music Fest is returning to the Seawalk Pavilion this Saturday. You can watch 6 live performances, and it all starts at 2 in the afternoon. It runs until 9 at night tomorrow. And here's a good one for dads. Anglers in Florida looking to get outside can catch their dinner at no cost. This is the second straight and last license-free fishing weekend. FWC says it is for freshwater fishing, but you still need to follow bag limit restrictions.
Florida is the fishing capital of the world. We have a lot of awesome fish out there. It's a great way to get outdoors, get involved, get in touch with nature and our great state. And so we offer that as a way to, get people into fishing that might be interested.
And for those who enjoy their first free fishing experience, an annual license for fresh or saltwater fishing costs $17 each for residents and $47 for non-residents. And this Sunday, as we know, it is Father's Day. It's a day that dads might want to avoid cutting the grass for once. Maybe you cook him breakfast or just let dad hang out and do whatever he wants all day long. And as we make it through another week here on Jacksonville Rewind, you can always catch up on the local news with us and feel informed. We hope you have a great weekend. And from all of us here at First Coast News, happy Father's Day and happy Grandpa's Day.